My stepmom, who I loved like a real mom, started treating me like trash during her pregnancy and threw my breakfast in the garbage, so I ran away through my bedroom window, but my dad said it was my fault. I, 17F, need to know if what I did was wrong. My cousin's girlfriend keeps telling me I should apologize, but I don't think I have anything to apologize for. Before I get into what happened, I need to explain how things used to be. My parents divorced when I was 8. My mom is a nurse practitioner and my dad remarried when I was 12. His new wife's name was Alana, and honestly, I loved her. She wasn't trying to replace my mom or anything like that. She was just nice to me. She helped me pick out clothes for school dances. She taught me how to do my makeup. When I got my period for the first time at her house, she handled it without making it awkward. She remembered my favorite snacks and always bought them when she went grocery shopping. I actually called her Jen instead of Alana because we were close like that. My dad and Jen lived in this house in Fontana that Dad bought after the divorce. It wasn't huge, but it had 3 bedrooms and a nice backyard. I stayed there every other weekend and some holidays. My mom had the primary custody because Dad traveled a lot for work. He's a regional sales manager for a medical equipment company. In late 2019, Jen told me she was pregnant. I was actually excited. I'd always wanted a sibling. I'm an only child and it gets boring. Jen seemed really happy about it too. She showed me the ultrasound pictures and let me help pick out paint colors for the nursery. We looked at baby names together. She asked me if I wanted to be in the delivery room and I said yes. Things were good. Then March 2020 happened. The whole world shut down because of the virus. My mom works at a clinic and suddenly she was doing double shifts. Sometimes triple. People were getting sick everywhere and the clinic was overwhelmed. She came home exhausted every single day. She barely had time to eat. I understood what was happening, but Mom sat me down one night and said it wasn't safe for me to stay with her anymore. She was exposed to sick people all day and she couldn't risk bringing something home to me. She cried when she told me this. My mom never cries. So I moved in with Dad and Jen full time. It was supposed to be temporary, but nobody knew how long temporary would be. I packed up most of my room and Dad came to get me. Mom hugged me for a really long time before I left. The first few weeks were fine. Jen was about 4 months pregnant by then. She was showing but not huge yet. I did online school in the guest bedroom that was now my bedroom. Dad was working from home. Jen was on leave from her job at the bank. We all ate dinner together. We watched movies. Dad grilled burgers in the backyard on weekends. It felt normal considering everything else that was happening in the world. Then something changed. I don't know exactly when it started, but Jen began acting different toward me. She would walk into a room and if I was there, she would turn around and leave. If I was watching TV in the living room, she would go upstairs to watch TV in her bedroom instead. When I asked if she wanted help making dinner, she said no in this short voice that made it clear she didn't want me in the kitchen. At first I thought maybe she was just tired. Pregnancy is hard. But it got worse. One morning I came downstairs for breakfast and Jen was making toast. I said good morning and she didn't respond. I asked if she slept okay and she slammed the butter knife down on the counter and walked out of the kitchen. I just stood there holding my cereal box. Dad made excuses. He said Jen was having a hard time with the pregnancy. He said the lockdown was stressing her out because she couldn't see her family. Her parents lived 3 states away and with everything shut down, they couldn't visit. He said her hormones were all over the place. He kept saying she would be back to normal soon. But she didn't get back to normal. She got worse. I tried to stay out of her way. I spent most of my time in my room. I only came out for meals and to use the bathroom. I did my chores without being asked. I cleaned the bathroom after I used it. I washed my dishes immediately after eating. I tried to be invisible. It didn't help. Jen found reasons to be upset with me. One afternoon she came into my room without knocking. She stood in the doorway and said my room smelled disgusting and it was making her sick. I looked around. I had one hoodie on my desk chair and an empty bag of pretzels in my trash can. That was it. I told her I didn't think it smelled and she started crying. Just burst into tears right there. Then she left and slammed my door. Another time I was doing laundry in the basement. I heard her come down the stairs. When she saw me at the washing machine, she made this sound. Like a disgusted groan. Then she went back upstairs without getting whatever she came down for. Dad kept defending her. He said I needed to be patient. He said pregnant women sometimes develop strong aversions to smells and people and even their pets. He said he read online about women who suddenly couldn't stand their husband's cologne or their dog's presence during pregnancy. He said it was temporary and not personal. But it felt personal. It felt extremely personal. I stopped coming out of my room except when I absolutely had to. I ate in my room most of the time. I asked Dad to bring me food so I wouldn't have to go to the kitchen. He did it, but he looked uncomfortable about it every time. I did my schoolwork. I watched videos on my phone. I stared at the ceiling. My room felt smaller every day. My hair started coming out. Not like normal shedding. When I brushed it, the brush would be full of hair. When I showered, there would be clumps of it stuck to the drain cover. I pulled hair off my pillow every morning. Mom noticed during one of our video calls and made me promise to tell her if it got worse. I promised, but I didn't tell her how much worse it already was. She had enough to worry about. I texted my friends, but everyone was locked down and depressed, and we ran out of things to talk about after a while. I missed my mom. I missed my old room. I missed feeling like I belonged somewhere. The breaking point came in June. School was almost over for the year. Jen was maybe 7 months pregnant by then. I was in the kitchen one morning around 10. I had gotten up late because I stayed up until 3 in the morning finishing a project for English class. I poured myself a bowl of cereal and sat down at the table with my phone. I like my cereal soggy, so I was waiting for it to sit for a few minutes. I was reading something online. Some post about a movie. Jen came into the kitchen. She didn't look at me. She went to the sink and started washing dishes. Except there were no dishes. Dad and I had cleaned up after breakfast 2 hours earlier. There was nothing in the sink. She was just running water and moving her hands around. Then she started wiping down the counter with a paper towel. The counter was already clean. She was huffing while she did this. Like she was really annoyed. She kept glancing at me out of the corner of her eye. Then she walked over to the table and grabbed my cereal bowl. My spoon was still in it. She walked over to the trash can and dumped the entire bowl into the garbage. The bowl and everything. I stood up. I asked her what she was doing. She said the kitchen was a mess and she was tired of cleaning up after me. I said the kitchen wasn't messy and that was my breakfast. She said she didn't care and I needed to get out of her space. I yelled at her. I called her a name. I'm not going to write what I called her, but it wasn't nice. I was just so tired of being treated like garbage in what was supposed to be my home too. Dad ran in from the living room. He got between us. Jen was crying again. She told him I had to leave. She said I couldn't be in the house anymore. She said I was making her miserable and stressing her out and it was bad for the baby. She said I couldn't be around her kid. Ever. Dad walked me to my room. He closed the door. Then he said something I will never forget. He said I must be doing something to make Jen react this way because people don't hate kids for no reason. He said if I kept stressing her out, he would have to find somewhere else for me to live because he couldn't risk something happening to the baby. I just stared at him. He left and closed the door. I grabbed my phone. I posted on Instagram explaining what had been happening. I asked if anyone's parents would let me crash with them for a while. Then I packed a backpack with clothes and my laptop and chargers. The house is only 1 floor, so my bedroom window opens right onto the side yard. I pushed the screen out. I climbed out. I walked around to the front and down the street. My phone started buzzing before I even made it to the end of the block. I turned it off. I went to my friend Rachel's house. She lived about a mile away. Her mom answered the door and I explained what happened. She let me stay. I used Rachel's phone to text my mom. I told her everything. She was in surgery, so she didn't call me back for hours. When she finally called, she was furious. Not at me. She told me to stay at Rachel's and she would handle it. She called my dad. She told him I was safe and I would be staying with my aunt until mom could get time off work to come get me. My aunt lives about an hour away. I didn't actually go to my aunt's house. I stayed at Rachel's. But Dad and Jen didn't know that. Apparently, they went looking for me. They drove to my aunt's house, but my aunt told them to leave. They went to some of my other relatives' houses. My grandparents wouldn't even open the door. After my Instagram post, everyone knew what had been going on. Dad and Jen got a lot of calls from family members. Not nice calls. I stayed at Rachel's for 2 weeks. Then Mom picked me up. I went back to her house. My aunt went to Dad's house with my mom and packed up all my stuff while I waited in the car. I refused to go inside. I haven't been inside that house since. That was over a year ago. I turned 18 2 weeks ago. I haven't spoken to my dad since the day I left. He's tried. He texts me. He sends me birthday and Christmas presents. He deposits money into my bank account. He always includes a note about how Jen didn't mean it and pregnancy just made her hate me for no reason and it's a real thing that happens and they want to fix things. I don't respond. I have a little brother now. He was born in August 2020. I've never met him. I've seen pictures. Dad tags me in Facebook posts with photos of him. His name is Mason. He looks like Dad. My cousin Miller has been asking me about inviting Dad to my birthday party. I told Miller the whole story a few days ago. His girlfriend Rowan was there. Rowan said what Dad and Jen did was messed up, but she also said what I did was wrong too. She said I made a pregnant woman worried during a pandemic. She said I made them go door to door looking for me when they should have been staying home. She said Jen clearly had some kind of mental health thing happening and I made it worse. I asked Rowan if she thought I should have just stayed and let Jen keep treating me like that. Rowan said no, but there were better ways to handle it than running away and putting them on social media. She said I was almost an adult and should have acted like one. Now I keep thinking about what she said. Was I wrong? Should I have handled it differently? I just wanted out of that house. Update 1: I posted a few weeks ago about my situation with my stepmom and running away. A lot happened since then and I need to get it written down. First, I uninvited Rowan from my party. I texted Miller and told him his girlfriend wasn't welcome. He called me right away. He asked what happened and I explained that Rowan basically told me I should apologize to people who made me miserable. Miller sighed really loud and said he needed to tell me something. He came over the next day. We sat in the backyard and he explained that Rowan has some stuff going on. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was in college. She's medicated now, but it took a long time to get the right combination. The reason he was telling me this is because Rowan has 2 younger siblings who won't talk to her. They're both adults now, but they refuse to have a relationship with her because of things she did when she was younger and not managing her illness well. Rowan's parents died in a car accident 3 years ago, so those siblings are all the family she has left. It breaks her heart that they won't forgive her. Miller said when I told my story, it triggered Rowan. She sees herself in Jen. She sees me as the sibling who won't forgive. He said she didn't mean to hurt me. She was projecting. I told Miller that wasn't my problem. He agreed. Then he showed me some texts Rowan had sent him after I left his house. She wanted to help me and Jen reconcile. She sent him links to articles about forgiveness and family therapy. She said I was holding on to anger that would hurt me later. Miller told her to drop it, but she kept pushing. Then Miller showed me texts Rowan sent to me. I had her number saved, but I'd blocked her right after uninviting her, so I hadn't seen them. She sent me links to therapy websites. She sent me subreddit links about estranged parents. She said I needed to let go of my hate before it consumed me. I told Miller his girlfriend was out of line. He said he knew and he told her that. He said Rowan wanted to meet up with me and apologize in person. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Rowan texted me the next day asking if she could take me out for my birthday. She said she wanted to buy me lunch at a new restaurant in the next town over as an early present and apology. Something about the text felt off, but I said okay. Meanwhile, some people in the comments on my first post suggested I write a letter to my dad. I thought about it for a few days and then I did it. I sat down and wrote 5 pages. I explained how he made me feel like I didn't matter. I explained that I wanted a relationship with my brother, but I wasn't sure about having one with him. I told him to stop texting me because every message pushed me further away. I said if we ever talked again, it would be on my terms and my mom would be present. Mom delivered the letter to Dad's house. She just knocked on the door and handed it to him and left. He called her the next day and asked to meet. They got coffee. He told her he wanted to arrange a meeting with my brother. He also offered to buy me a car for my birthday. No strings attached. And he wanted to give me money. $500. I talked to Mom about it. She said it was up to me. I decided to take both. The car and the money. I know people will judge me for that, but I'm about to start college and I need a car to get to campus. The money will help with dorm supplies. I figured if he wanted to spend his guilt money on something useful, I'd let him. Then I found out what Rowan was really planning. Mom's friend's daughter found something online. Rowan had contacted Jen on Facebook. She sent Jen screenshots of my messages to Miller about the situation. She told Jen she didn't believe my version of events and wanted to hear Jen's side. She was trying to get Jen to defend herself so Rowan could show me that I was wrong. Jen didn't do what Rowan wanted. Jen replied and told Rowan that everything I said was true. She said she didn't know why she reacted to me the way she did during her pregnancy, but it happened and she felt terrible about it. She said she got help after Mason was born and she's doing better now. She said she didn't blame me for hating her. She took complete responsibility. Rowan responded by telling Jen the time and location of our lunch. She said she was driving me so I couldn't leave early. She said it would be a good opportunity for Jen and me to talk things out in a neutral location with someone there to mediate. Mom found out about this because Jen forwarded everything to Dad and Dad sent it to Mom. Mom posted the screenshots in a family group chat. She called Rowan names I won't repeat here. She said if Rowan came near me, there would be consequences. I blocked Rowan's number for real this time. I left the group chat because people kept messaging. Miller showed up at our house 2 days later. He swore he didn't know what Rowan was planning. Mom and my aunt didn't believe him. They both yelled at him for about 20 minutes. He kept trying to defend Rowan. He said she just wanted to help. My aunt told him that his girlfriend was manipulative and he needed to wake up. Miller left crying. He broke up with Rowan a few days later. He came back and apologized again. I told him we were okay, but he needed to be more careful about who he dated. Dad called Mom after the whole Rowan thing blew up. He said he and Jen had no idea Rowan was going to do that. He said Jen was horrified. He asked again about me meeting Mason. Mom told him she would ask me. I thought about it. Mason's a little kid. He's 1 year old. None of this is his fault. I told Mom I would meet him but not at Dad's house. Mom arranged for the meeting to happen at my aunt's house. That's happening next month. I'm nervous, but I think it's the right thing to do. Mason's my brother even if I don't have a relationship with Dad. I don't want him growing up thinking I didn't care about him. The car Dad promised showed up last week. It's a used Honda, but it runs fine and it's mine. The title is in my name. He deposited the money too. Mom made sure there were actually no strings attached before I accepted any of it. She had a lawyer look at the paperwork. It's clean. I still don't talk to Dad. I don't know if I will. But at least I'll get to meet Mason. Update 2: The meeting with Mason happened last weekend. I need to write about it because something else happened too and it's all connected. First, the Mason stuff. Mom took me to my aunt's house on Saturday morning. Dad and Jen were supposed to get there at 10. I got there at 9:30. I sat in the living room and waited. My aunt made coffee. Mom kept asking if I was okay. I told her I was fine. Dad's car pulled up right at 10. I watched through the window. Dad got out first. Then Jen got out and opened the back door. She took Mason out of his car seat. He's bigger than I expected. He was wearing a green shirt and little jeans. Jen carried him up to the front door. My aunt answered. She let them in, but she didn't hug Dad or say hello to Jen. She just stepped aside. Dad saw me sitting on the couch and he stopped walking. He looked like he wanted to say something, but Mom gave him a look and he didn't. Jen put Mason down. He stood there holding onto her leg for a minute. Then he saw my aunt's cat on the windowsill and he walked over to look at it. He pressed his hands against the window and made noises at the cat. The cat just stared back at him. Dad and Jen went into the kitchen. Mom went with them. I could hear them talking, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. My aunt stayed in the living room with me and Mason. Mason played with some toys my aunt put out for him. Blocks and cars. He brought me a car and held it up to show me. I took it and rolled it back to him. He laughed. We did that for a while. He looks like Dad. Same nose. Same hair color. But he has Jen's eyes. He didn't cry or act scared of me. He just played. At one point he climbed up on the couch next to me and handed me a book. I read it to him. He sat there and pointed at the pictures. After about an hour, Jen came out and said they needed to go. Mason had a nap scheduled. She picked him up. She looked at me and said, "Thank you for coming." I didn't respond. Dad walked out behind her, but he stopped in the doorway. He turned around. He walked back over to where I was standing. Then he just hugged me. He didn't ask. He just did it. He said he missed me. I hugged him back. I don't know why. I didn't plan to. Then I started crying. Not sad crying. Angry crying. I pulled away and told him exactly what he did to me. I told him about my hair falling out. I told him how I felt like he picked Jen over me. I told him I would never forgive him for that. He cried too. He apologized. He said he knew he messed up. He asked if he could try to be part of my life again. I said maybe, but I wasn't making any promises. They left after that. Mom drove me home. She asked how I was doing. I said I didn't know. The other thing that happened was with Rowan. Mom had booked us a vacation for this week. Just the two of us. We were supposed to leave Monday morning. We went to a beach town about 4 hours away. Mom wanted to do something nice before I started college. We weren't even gone 3 full days when my aunt called. She said Rowan had shown up at our house. My aunt lives close to us and she happened to be driving by when she saw Rowan on our front porch. She pulled over. Rowan was ringing the doorbell over and over. My aunt got out of her car and asked what Rowan was doing. Rowan said she needed to talk to me. My aunt told her I wasn't home. Rowan said she would wait. My aunt told her to leave. Rowan refused. Then Rowan started yelling. She said I was ruining my life by not forgiving my family. She said I was going to end up alone and miserable. She called me names. She said I was selfish and cruel and I was breaking my father's heart on purpose. My aunt told her to leave again. Rowan started banging on the front door. She kicked it. She broke the Ring camera we have mounted by the door. My aunt called the police. Rowan was arrested. She's being charged with property damage and harassment. Mom is pressing charges. We came home early from the trip. Miller came over yesterday. He's a mess. He said he and Rowan are completely done. He said he didn't realize how bad she'd gotten. He apologized again. He brought my aunt money for the camera and the door repair. I called Jen. I didn't tell anyone I was going to do it. I used Mom's phone because Jen doesn't have my number. Jen answered and I said it was me. She got quiet. I told her we were never going to have a relationship again. What she did hurt too much. But I said I wanted to be in Mason's life and that meant we needed to be able to be in the same room without it being weird. I said I would be civil at his birthday parties and holidays and whatever else. That was it. Jen said she understood. She apologized again. She said she's not like that anymore and she got help after Mason was born. I told her I was glad she was doing better. Then I hung up. Dad texted me later. He said, "Thank you for calling, Jen." He asked if he could help me move into my dorm next month. I said maybe. I don't know what happens next. I don't forgive Dad. I don't think I ever will. But Mason deserves to have his sister around. And maybe having Dad back in my life a little bit won't be the worst thing. As long as he knows he has to earn it. Update 3: I'm writing this from my dorm room. I moved in 2 weeks ago. College started and I've been busy with classes and meeting people. But I wanted to update everyone on what's been happening. Dad helped me move in. He showed up with a truck and carried all my stuff up 3 flights of stairs. Mom was there too. They didn't talk much but they weren't fighting. Dad brought me a mini fridge and a desk lamp. He set everything up in my room. When he was done, he asked if I needed anything else. I said no. He hugged me before he left. We've texted a few times since then. Short stuff. He asks how classes are going. I give basic answers. He sends pictures of Mason. Mason started walking everywhere and Dad says he gets into everything now. I asked if I could visit during fall break. Dad said yes immediately. The thing with Rowan went to court. She pleaded guilty to the property damage charge. She has to pay for repairs and she's on probation. She also has to stay away from me and my family. Miller said she moved back to her hometown to be closer to her old therapist. He hasn't talked to her since the arrest. Miller and I are good now. He came to visit me at school last weekend. He brought me groceries and took me out to dinner. He apologized again for bringing Rowan into my life. I told him to stop apologizing. It wasn't his fault that his girlfriend lost it. I talked to Dad about seeing Mason regularly. We worked out a schedule where I can visit once a month. Mom will drive me there until I feel comfortable going alone. The visits will be at my aunt's house for now. Maybe eventually I'll be okay going to Dad's house, but I'm not there yet. Jen and I don't talk. When I visit Mason, she stays in a different room most of the time. Once she came in to bring Mason a snack and we said hi to each other. That was it. It's better this way. I meant what I said about being civil for Mason's sake, but I don't want more than that. Mason knows who I am now. When I visited last week, he saw me and reached for me right away. Dad said he asks about his sister sometimes. That makes me want to cry every time I think about it. He's a good kid. He deserves to have both his parents and his sister around. I've been thinking about what Dad said about Jen hating me during her pregnancy. I looked it up. It's a real thing. Some pregnant women develop aversions to specific people. There's not a lot of research on it, but it happens. I guess understanding why it happened doesn't change the fact that it did happen. It doesn't make it hurt less. But at least I know Jen wasn't just evil for no reason. My hair grew back. It took a while, but it's thick again now. Mom cried when she noticed. She keeps touching my hair and smiling. I'm doing okay here at school. I joined a club for my major. I'm making friends. My roommate is cool. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and remember everything that happened and I get this feeling in my chest like I can't breathe. But then I remind myself that I'm out. I'm safe. I have my mom and my aunt and my brother. I have Miller. I even have Dad back a little bit. People keep asking me if I'll ever forgive Dad completely. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. He knows he destroyed something between us that might not ever be fixed. But he's trying. That has to count for something. I saw Jen's face the last time I visited Mason. She was standing in the hallway watching Mason and me play. She looked sad. Not the crying kind of sad. Just tired and sad. Part of me feels bad for her. Most of me doesn't. I'm not going to update anymore after this. I just wanted to let everyone know how things turned out. Thanks to everyone who commented and gave advice. Thanks to the people who told me I wasn't wrong for leaving. I needed to hear that. Mason's birthday is next month. I'm going. I already bought him a present. A stuffed dinosaur that roars when you squeeze it. Dad says Mason loves dinosaurs now. I guess that's it. Life goes on. I'm building something new that looks different from what I had before. It's not perfect, but it's mine. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My stepfather tried to destroy my engagement with a fake cheating scandal using his 20-year-old mistress, but when we exposed his affair to my mother, his entire life fell apart and now he's facing criminal charges. I need advice on whether I should tell my mother about something terrible I discovered. This situation involves my stepfather Mark, 52M, my fiancée Jessica, 26F, my mother Carol, 48F, and a college girl named Amy, 20F. Jessica and I got engaged 3 months ago after dating for 2 years. We met at a coffee shop near the university where she works as a research assistant. I was there working on my laptop when she accidentally knocked over my coffee while rushing to her table. She bought me a new one and we started talking. I work in IT support for a small company, nothing fancy, but I make decent money and have good benefits. Jessica comes from what you'd call old money. Her family owns several businesses across the state and has connections everywhere. When we first started dating, she never mentioned any of this. She drove an older Honda, wore simple clothes, and always split the bill on dates. I thought she was just like me, someone working hard to get by. About 6 months into our relationship, she finally told me about her family's wealth. She said she had learned to hide it because too many people had tried to use her for money in the past. She wanted to make sure I cared about her as a person first. I was shocked but also understood why she had kept it secret. Meeting her parents was intimidating. Her mother Linda, 51F, was polite but seemed to study everything I said. Her stepfather Mark had married Linda when Jessica was 12, after her biological father died in a car accident. Mark came from a middle-class background himself but had built a successful consulting business after marrying into the family. Mark made his opinion clear from the first dinner. He pulled me aside afterward and told me I should think seriously about whether I was the right fit for Jessica. He said she needed someone who could match her social status and provide the lifestyle she was accustomed to. He suggested I was holding her back from better opportunities. Over the next year and a half, Mark never missed a chance to undermine our relationship. At family gatherings, he would make comments about how Jessica deserved someone more established. He would bring up successful young men he knew and suggest Jessica should meet them. When Jessica defended me, he would act like he was just looking out for her best interests. The worst incident happened last Christmas. Mark had invited Jessica and me to a charity gala without telling us he had also invited the son of one of his business partners. This guy, Trevor, 28M, was a lawyer from a prominent family. Mark spent the entire evening trying to get Jessica to dance with Trevor and talk to him about his work. When Jessica refused and stayed with me, Mark accused her of being stubborn and throwing away good connections. That night, Jessica and I had a long conversation about her family situation. She said Mark had gotten worse over the years, especially after she started college. He seemed to think he had a right to control her choices because he had helped raise her. Her mother Linda usually stayed quiet during these confrontations, which frustrated Jessica even more. Things came to a head 2 months ago when Jessica and I announced our engagement. We had planned a small celebration with both families. Mark showed up late and barely acknowledged the news. Later, he cornered Jessica in the kitchen and told her she was making a huge mistake. He said I was obviously after her money and that she would regret marrying beneath her station. Jessica came out of that conversation shaking with anger. She told Mark that if he couldn't respect her choices, he wouldn't be welcome at our wedding. Mark laughed and said she would come to her senses eventually. He left early that night without saying goodbye to anyone. After that confrontation, Jessica decided to limit contact with Mark. She would still visit her mother but would leave if Mark started his usual comments. This went on for about 6 weeks without any major incidents. Then 3 days ago, everything exploded. Jessica received a Facebook message from someone named Amy Thompson. The message said Amy needed to tell Jessica something important about me. Jessica showed me the message immediately because we don't keep secrets from each other. Amy claimed that I had been messaging her on dating apps and that we had met up twice in the past month. She said I had told her I was single and that we had been intimate both times. She provided details about supposedly meeting me at a restaurant downtown and then going back to her apartment. Jessica knew the accusations were false. I work from home most days and we spend almost all our free time together. She has access to my phone and laptop whenever she wants. There would be no opportunity for me to have these secret meetings even if I wanted to. Jessica decided to call Amy directly to get to the bottom of the situation. She put the call on speaker so I could hear everything. Amy stuck to her story at first, describing dates and conversations that never happened. When Jessica pressed for proof like screenshots or photos, Amy said she had deleted everything. Jessica told Amy that we knew she was lying and asked why she was making false accusations. Amy got quiet for a moment, then said she was sorry and that someone had asked her to contact Jessica with this story. When Jessica demanded to know who, Amy hung up. Jessica called back immediately. This time Amy answered but sounded like she had been crying. Jessica told Amy that making false accusations could have serious legal consequences and that we were considering involving the police. Amy broke down and admitted the whole thing was made up. But then Amy said something that made both Jessica and me freeze. She said Mark had asked her to send those messages. She said Mark had told her exactly what to say and had promised to help her with something important if she did it. Jessica asked Amy to explain the connection to Mark. Amy said she had been working as a server at a restaurant Mark frequents for business lunches. She said Mark had been flirting with her for months and that they had started spending time together outside of work. Amy then said something that made Jessica go pale. Amy said she and Mark had been sleeping together for almost 6 months and that he had promised to leave Linda for her. She said Mark had told her that if she helped break up Jessica's engagement, he would prove how serious he was about their relationship. Jessica asked Amy to provide proof of her relationship with Mark. Amy sent several photos showing her and Mark together at restaurants and hotels. She also sent screenshots of text messages between them that were clearly romantic and sexual in nature. Jessica stared at the evidence for a long time without saying anything. She finally asked Amy why she had agreed to lie about me. Amy said Mark had convinced her that I was wrong for Jessica and that breaking us up would be good for everyone. She said she was in love with Mark and would do anything he asked. After we hung up, Jessica sat in silence for over an hour looking through all the photos and messages Amy had sent. She kept checking the details to see if they could be fake, but everything looked genuine. The timestamps on the messages went back months, and the photos showed Mark and Amy in places Jessica recognized from Mark's social media posts. Now Jessica is torn about what to do with this information. She's disgusted by Mark's attempt to sabotage our engagement, but she's also worried about how this will affect her mother. Linda has been married to Mark for 14 years and seems to trust him completely. Jessica doesn't know if she should tell Linda about the affair or just cut Mark out of her life without explanation. Jessica is also concerned that if the affair allegations are somehow false, confronting Mark could backfire and make him even more determined to break us up. But if the affair is real, she feels like her mother deserves to know what kind of man she's married to. I've told Jessica that I'll support whatever decision she makes, but I think Linda has a right to know the truth. Mark has shown that he's willing to go to extreme lengths to control Jessica's life, and I don't think this behavior will stop just because his current plan failed. What should we do? Should Jessica tell her mother about Mark's affair and his attempt to destroy our engagement, or should we just distance ourselves from him and hope he leaves us alone? Update 1. I wanted to update everyone on what happened after my original post. The situation has gotten much more complicated than we expected. After reading through all the comments on my post, Jessica decided she needed to confront Mark directly before involving her mother. She wanted to give him a chance to explain himself and maybe end the affair voluntarily. Looking back, this was probably naive, but Jessica still had some hope that Mark might do the right thing. Jessica called Mark and asked him to meet her for coffee without Linda knowing. She told him she needed to discuss something important about our engagement. Mark agreed, probably thinking he had another opportunity to change her mind about marrying me. They met at a coffee shop downtown last Saturday morning. Jessica brought printed copies of all the evidence Amy had provided, including the photos and text messages. She also brought her phone in case she needed to call Amy again. Jessica told Mark she knew about his affair with Amy and his plan to sabotage our engagement. She showed him the photos and messages Amy had sent. Mark's face went completely white when he saw the evidence, but he didn't deny anything right away. Jessica said Mark sat quietly for several minutes, staring at the photos. Finally, he admitted the affair was real but claimed it had been a mistake that was already over. He said Amy was obsessed with him and wouldn't leave him alone. He denied asking Amy to lie about me. Jessica pulled out her phone and called Amy right there in the coffee shop. She put the call on speaker and asked Amy to repeat what she had told us about Mark's instructions. Amy confirmed that Mark had specifically asked her to contact Jessica with false accusations about me. She said Mark had given her details about our relationship to make her story sound more believable. Mark tried to interrupt and deny what Amy was saying, but Jessica told him to stay quiet. Amy went on to describe several conversations where Mark had talked about how much he disliked me and wanted Jessica to find someone else. Amy said Mark had told her that breaking us up would benefit everyone involved. After Amy hung up, Mark finally admitted he had asked her to contact Jessica, but he claimed he was just trying to protect Jessica from making a bad decision. He said he had seen too many young women marry the wrong person and ruin their lives. He insisted his motives were good even if his methods were questionable. Jessica told Mark that his interference in her personal life was completely unacceptable and that the affair was a betrayal of her mother. She said he had 48 hours to tell Linda about the affair himself, or she would do it for him. Mark begged Jessica not to tell Linda. He said the affair was over and that destroying his marriage wouldn't help anyone. He promised to stop interfering in our relationship if Jessica would keep quiet about Amy. He even offered to pay for our wedding and give us his blessing. Jessica told Mark that buying her silence wasn't an option. She said Linda deserved to know what he had been doing behind her back. Mark got angry and accused Jessica of trying to destroy their family out of spite. He said I had turned her against him and that she was choosing a nobody over the man who had raised her. Jessica stood up to leave, but Mark grabbed her arm and told her she would regret making an enemy of him. He said he had connections and resources that could make our lives very difficult if we crossed him. Jessica pulled away and told him that threatening her only proved she was making the right decision. Jessica came home and told me everything that had happened. She was shaking from the confrontation but determined to tell her mother the truth. We decided to wait until the 48-hour deadline passed to see if Mark would confess on his own. Monday evening came and went with no word from Linda, so we knew Mark hadn't said anything. Jessica called her mother Tuesday morning and asked if they could have lunch together. Linda agreed, probably thinking Jessica wanted to discuss wedding plans. Jessica and Linda met at Linda's favorite restaurant yesterday afternoon. Jessica brought copies of all the evidence again, including new photos Amy had sent showing her and Mark together just days after their coffee shop confrontation. This proved Mark had lied about ending the affair. Jessica told Linda everything, the false accusations against me, Mark's affair with Amy, and his attempt to blackmail Jessica into silence. Linda initially didn't believe any of it and accused Jessica of making up stories because she was angry about Mark's disapproval of our engagement. Jessica showed Linda the photos and text messages. Linda examined each piece of evidence carefully, asking questions about dates and locations. Some of the photos were taken at places Linda recognized from Mark's business trips. The text messages referenced conversations Mark had supposedly had with clients on days Linda remembered him being away from home. Linda became very quiet as she went through everything. Jessica said her mother's hands were shaking as she read some of Mark's more explicit messages to Amy. Finally, Linda asked Jessica to call Amy so she could hear the story directly. Amy answered the phone and repeated everything she had told us. She described her relationship with Mark in detail, including specific things he had said about Linda and their marriage. Amy also admitted that Mark had continued seeing her even after promising Jessica the affair was over. Linda asked Amy several personal questions that only someone close to Mark would know the answers to. Amy answered correctly each time, describing Mark's habits and preferences in ways that made it clear she had spent intimate time with him. After the call ended, Linda sat in silence for almost 20 minutes. Jessica said her mother looked like she had aged years in the span of that conversation. Finally, Linda thanked Jessica for telling her the truth and said she needed time to figure out what to do next. Linda drove home and confronted Mark that evening. According to Jessica, Linda called her around 9 o'clock and said Mark had admitted to everything when faced with the evidence. He had begged for forgiveness and promised to end things with Amy permanently, but Linda told him it was too late. Linda has asked Mark to move out of their house. She said she can't trust him anymore and needs space to decide whether their marriage can be salvaged. Mark has been staying at a hotel for the past 3 days. Meanwhile, Amy has been calling and texting Jessica constantly. She seems to think that Mark leaving Linda means he'll be free to start a real relationship with her. Jessica has been ignoring these messages, but Amy's behavior is getting more desperate and erratic. Yesterday, Amy showed up at Jessica's workplace asking to speak with her. Security had to escort Amy off the property when she refused to leave. Amy keeps insisting that she and Mark are in love and that Jessica has ruined their chance at happiness. Mark has also been trying to contact both Jessica and me. He sent several angry text messages blaming us for destroying his marriage and threatening to make us pay for our interference. Jessica has blocked his number, but he's been calling from different phones. The most disturbing part is that Mark seems to think he's the victim in this situation. His messages show no remorse for cheating on Linda or for trying to sabotage our engagement. Instead, he's angry that his plans didn't work and that he's facing consequences for his actions. Linda has been staying with Jessica's aunt for the past few days while she decides what to do about her marriage. She told Jessica that discovering Mark's affair has made her question everything about their relationship. She's wondering how long he's been lying to her and whether there have been other women besides Amy. We're supposed to get married in 4 months, and this situation has cast a shadow over our wedding planning. Jessica feels guilty about the timing, but I've told her that exposing Mark's behavior was the right thing to do regardless of the consequences. I'll update again if there are any major developments, but right now everyone is just trying to process what's happened and figure out how to move forward. Update 2: The situation with Mark has gotten much worse since my last update. What we thought was just an affair with Amy has turned out to be part of a much bigger pattern of behavior. Linda ended up hiring a private investigator to look into Mark's activities over the past few years. What they found was shocking even to us. Mark has apparently been having affairs throughout most of his marriage to Linda, not just with Amy. The investigator found evidence of at least 4 other women Mark has been involved with over the past 6 years. Some were short-term flings during business trips, but others were longer relationships that lasted several months. One woman, a real estate agent named Patricia, had been seeing Mark on and off for almost 2 years. Linda was devastated when she saw the full report. She had trusted Mark completely and never suspected he was cheating, let alone with multiple women over such a long period. The investigator estimated that Mark had spent thousands of dollars on these affairs, taking women to expensive restaurants and hotels and buying them gifts. What made everything worse was discovering that Mark had been using money from Linda's family trust to pay for his affairs. Linda's family wealth comes from a trust established by her grandfather, and Mark had been given access to some accounts after they married. He had been making regular withdrawals for years, claiming they were for business expenses. Linda's attorney calculated that Mark had taken almost $60,000 from the trust over the past 4 years. Some of this money went to legitimate business costs, but a significant portion was spent on his affairs. Linda never questioned these expenses because she trusted Mark to handle their finances responsibly. The most disturbing discovery came when the investigator looked into Amy's background more thoroughly. Amy isn't just some college student Mark met at a restaurant. She's actually the daughter of one of Mark's former business clients, and Mark has known her family for years. Amy's father hired Mark as a consultant when Amy was still in high school. Mark has been watching Amy grow up and apparently started pursuing her shortly after she turned 18. Amy's parents have no idea about the relationship because Amy told them Mark was just helping her with career advice. This revelation made Jessica sick to her stomach. She realized that Mark had been grooming Amy for years, waiting until she was legally an adult to start the affair. The idea that Mark had been planning this relationship while Amy was still a teenager was horrifying to everyone involved. Linda confronted Mark with all this evidence last month. Instead of showing remorse, Mark became defensive and angry. He accused Linda of violating his privacy by hiring an investigator. He claimed that all his relationships outside their marriage were meaningless and that Linda was overreacting to what he called normal male behavior. Mark also tried to justify taking money from the trust by saying he had helped increase the family's wealth through his business connections. He argued that he deserved compensation for the work he had put into maintaining Linda's social status and business relationships. Linda was so disgusted by Mark's response that she immediately filed for divorce. She also reported the financial irregularities to her attorney, who advised her that Mark's use of trust funds might constitute fraud depending on the specific terms of the trust documents. Mark's reaction to the divorce filing was explosive. He started calling Linda at all hours, alternating between begging for forgiveness and making threats. He told Linda that divorcing him would ruin her reputation in their social circle and that people would blame her for not being able to keep her husband satisfied. Mark also escalated his harassment of Jessica and me. He started showing up at places we frequented, watching us from a distance but not approaching directly. Jessica's co-workers reported seeing him in the parking lot at her workplace several times. He also drove by our apartment building multiple times each week. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago when Mark confronted me directly. I was leaving the grocery store when he approached me in the parking lot. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, and obviously drunk even though it was only 3 in the afternoon. Mark started yelling at me, blaming me for destroying his marriage and his relationship with Jessica. He said everything had been fine until I came along and turned Jessica against her family. He accused me of being a gold digger who was only interested in Jessica's money. When I tried to walk away, Mark grabbed my shoulder and spun me around. He said he wasn't finished talking and that I needed to hear what he had to say. He told me that he would never accept me as part of the family and that he would find a way to break up my engagement to Jessica. I told Mark to let go of me and leave us alone. He responded by shoving me backward into a parked car. At that point, I called 911 because Mark was clearly intoxicated and becoming violent. Mark saw me on the phone and stumbled back to his car, driving away before the police arrived. The police took a report about the incident and advised me to get a restraining order against Mark. Jessica and I went to court the following week and obtained temporary protective orders for both of us. Mark is now legally required to stay at least 500 feet away from us and is prohibited from contacting us directly or indirectly. Meanwhile, Amy's behavior has become increasingly erratic. After Linda kicked Mark out, Amy seemed to think this meant Mark would finally commit to a real relationship with her. When Mark continued to string her along without making any definitive plans, Amy started posting about their relationship on social media. Amy created a Facebook post with photos of her and Mark together, announcing that they were in love and planning to get married. She tagged several of Mark's business associates and social contacts in the post. This caused a huge scandal in Mark's professional circle, especially since everyone knew he was still legally married to Linda. Mark was furious about Amy's social media post and told her to delete everything immediately. When Amy refused, Mark cut off all contact with her. Amy responded by showing up at Mark's hotel and causing a scene in the lobby when the staff wouldn't let her go to his room. Amy has also been trying to contact Linda, claiming that she and Mark are meant to be together and that Linda should accept their relationship. Linda has blocked Amy's number, but Amy keeps creating new social media accounts to send messages. Some of these messages are pleading for understanding, while others are hostile and blame Linda for Mark's reluctance to commit. The stress of all this drama has been affecting Jessica's health. She's been having trouble sleeping and has lost weight from not eating regularly. Her doctor recommended that we consider postponing our wedding until the situation with Mark stabilizes, but Jessica is determined not to let him disrupt our plans any further. Linda has been staying with her sister in another state for the past month to get away from all the chaos. She told Jessica that she needs time and space to heal from discovering the extent of Mark's betrayals. Linda is also working with her attorney to ensure that Mark can't access any more of the family's financial accounts. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, but Mark's attorney is fighting the settlement terms. Mark wants to claim half of Linda's assets, including her share of the family trust. Linda's lawyer says this is unlikely to succeed given the evidence of Mark's financial misconduct, but it means the divorce will probably take longer than expected. Jessica and I have decided to hire our own attorney to make sure Mark can't interfere with our wedding or try to claim any rights to Jessica's inheritance. We want to be legally protected in case Mark's behavior escalates further. The wedding is still planned for next month, but we've had to change some of the arrangements due to security concerns. We're having a smaller ceremony with only close friends and family members we trust completely. We've also hired security for the event in case Mark tries to disrupt the proceedings despite the restraining order. Update 3: I wanted to give everyone a final update on this situation since so many people have been following our story. The past few months have been intense, but things have finally settled into a new normal. Jessica and I got married as planned, despite all the drama with Mark. The wedding was smaller than we originally intended, but it was perfect for us. We held the ceremony at Linda's sister's house in another state, far away from Mark and his chaos. Linda was able to attend and seemed genuinely happy for us, which meant everything to Jessica. Mark did try to interfere with our wedding, even with the restraining order in place. 2 days before the ceremony, he somehow found out where we were having it and called the venue claiming to be Jessica's father. He told them there was a family emergency and that the wedding needed to be cancelled immediately. Fortunately, we had already warned the venue about potential disruptions, so they contacted us directly instead of acting on Mark's instructions. We informed the police about this violation of the restraining order, and Mark was arrested later that day when he showed up at the venue location. Mark spent our wedding day in jail, which was honestly the best wedding gift we could have asked for. He was released the next morning with additional legal restrictions and a warning that any further violations would result in serious criminal charges. The legal consequences for Mark have been substantial. Besides the divorce proceedings, he's facing multiple charges related to his harassment of our family. The district attorney decided to prosecute him for stalking, making threats, and violating the restraining order. Mark pled guilty to reduced charges and received 2 years probation plus mandatory counseling. Mark's business has also suffered significantly from all the negative publicity. Several of his major clients canceled their contracts after Amy's social media posts and the subsequent legal troubles became public knowledge. Mark had to close his consulting firm and is apparently working for someone else now at a much lower salary. The divorce between Mark and Linda was finalized 2 months ago. Linda's attorney did an excellent job protecting her assets, and Mark received only a small settlement that barely covered his legal fees. He also had to repay the $60,000 he took from the family trust, plus interest and penalties. Linda discovered even more affairs during the divorce proceedings, including one with a woman who worked at their country club. The investigator found evidence that Mark had been unfaithful almost from the beginning of their marriage. Linda told Jessica she felt stupid for not seeing the signs earlier, but everyone assured her that Mark was just very good at hiding his behavior. Amy's story took a sad turn after Mark cut off contact with her. She became obsessed with winning him back and started showing up at his new workplace and following him around town. Mark had to get his own restraining order against Amy when her behavior became threatening. Amy ended up dropping out of college and moving back in with her parents in another state. Her father found out about the affair when Amy's harassment of Mark became public, and he was horrified that Mark had been pursuing his daughter while pretending to provide mentorship. Amy's father is considering his own legal action against Mark. The most disturbing revelation came when Amy's parents looked through her social media history and found evidence that Mark had been grooming her since she was 16. There were messages and photos going back several years showing Mark giving Amy expensive gifts and taking her to adult events without her parents' knowledge. Amy's father reported this information to the police, and Mark is now under investigation for possible statutory rape charges. The investigation is ongoing, but Mark's attorney is apparently trying to negotiate a plea deal to avoid a trial. Linda has been doing much better since the divorce was finalized. She's been traveling and spending time with friends she had lost touch with during her marriage to Mark. She told Jessica that she feels like herself again for the first time in years and that she's actually grateful the truth came out when it did. Linda has also been very supportive of our marriage, which has helped Jessica tremendously. She's made it clear that she considers me part of the family and that she regrets not standing up to Mark's behavior sooner. She's been helping us look for a house and has even offered to help with the down payment. Jessica and I have been living quietly and trying to rebuild our sense of security after months of harassment and threats. Jessica has been seeing a counselor to help process the trauma of discovering how manipulative and dangerous Mark really was. She's doing much better but still has moments when she questions her judgment about people. I've also struggled with trust issues after this experience. Finding out that someone hated me enough to orchestrate such an elaborate scheme to destroy my relationship was deeply disturbing. It's made me more cautious about people's motives and more protective of our privacy. We've learned to be much more careful about our personal information and social media presence. We've changed our phone numbers, moved to a new apartment, and limited what we share online. It's unfortunate that we have to live this way, but Mark's behavior showed us how dangerous obsessed people can be. The restraining order against Mark is still in effect and will remain so for another year. He's not supposed to contact us directly or indirectly, but he's tested the boundaries a few times. He created fake social media accounts to try to friend us and had a mutual acquaintance ask Jessica if she would consider reconciling with him. Each time Mark has violated the spirit of the restraining order, we've reported it to the authorities. His probation officer has warned him that any further contact attempts could result in jail time, which seems to have finally gotten through to him. Mark's current situation is apparently quite grim. He lost his house in the divorce settlement and is renting a small apartment across town. His reputation in the business community is ruined, and most of his former friends have distanced themselves from him. He's essentially starting over at age 52 with nothing to show for his previous life. Jessica occasionally hears updates about Mark through mutual acquaintances, but she's made it clear that she doesn't want detailed information about his situation. She's focused on moving forward with our life together rather than dwelling on the past. We're expecting our first child in 6 months, and Linda is excited about becoming a grandmother. She's already planning to spoil the baby and has been buying clothes and toys. It's wonderful to see her so happy after everything she's been through. Looking back on this whole experience, I'm amazed at how quickly our lives were turned upside down by one person's selfish and manipulative behavior. Mark's attempts to control Jessica's life ended up destroying his own family and career while bringing Jessica and me closer together. The most important lesson we've learned is that some people will go to extreme lengths to get what they want, even if it means hurting innocent people in the process. We've also learned the importance of standing up to bullies and not letting fear prevent us from doing the right thing. Jessica and I are stronger now than we were before this ordeal began. We've proven to ourselves and each other that our relationship can survive serious challenges, and we're confident about our future together. Mark's attempts to break us up ultimately failed, and we're living the life we always planned while he's dealing with the consequences of his choices. We don't expect to hear from Mark again, and we're grateful that this chapter of our lives is finally closed. We're focused now on building our family and enjoying the peace we've worked so hard to achieve.